Okay, welcome back this week. Unplanned, but I'm excited to talk about The Surrender Experiment by Micheal Singer, a book that was recommended to me by my coach, Michelle Humphrey. And I'm really glad that I took it up and read it when I did. It is a great book that encapsulates many of the ideas that I've been talking about over the last several months. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to kind of outline the book for you here to make some points. And if you want to read it, I may give some of it away, but it's still a great read. So Micheal Singer, as a young man in graduate school, was sitting on a couch one day talking to his brother-in-law, and he was noticing the voice inside of his head talking to him. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, get in tune with yourself, because we all have a voice inside our head that says things to us all day long, if we're honest. And he said to his brother-in-law, have you ever noticed the voice inside your head talking to you? And his brother-in-law thought about it for a minute and said, yeah, okay. And so Micheal thought this was the rather unique thing that only he was experiencing. And so he started asking people, and some people would look at him sideways, and some people didn't understand. And he went on a search for what is this voice inside of his head and how can he get it to stop. And one day during a camping trip, he decided to sit down under a tree and not get up until he was able to silence the voice inside his head, or at least understand it. So he started to meditate, or at least what he thought was meditation at the time, and had a pretty transformative experience where he was finally able to connect to source through meditation and get the voice to stop inside of his head. And that was such a powerful experience, he decided to really dedicate himself to meditation, and he learned different forms of meditation, but eventually settled on a specific form of meditation from the yogic practices in India. And he, since that time in his 20s, has spent 2 hours every day meditating. He is now, as you can see from this picture of him, an older gentleman. He was born in the 1940s. But through his process of meditation, here's the key. He realizes that the divine, or the source of all that is, can make better decisions for his life than he actually can. So through his process of meditation, he decides in his early 20s to surrender to what life presents to him and follow it. So instead of letting his ego lead him, he looks at what he's presented with on a daily basis and follows what's being presented to him. So the majority of the book is about his process of listening to what is being presented to him and surrendering to what is being asked of him and actually doing it. And when he does what he's being called to do, he's 100% committed to excellence in whatever it is that he ends up doing. And he goes through a process of really initially just being committed to meditating, but then buys some property with some friends, builds a house, then attracts other people to meditate with him. He starts doing meditations every Sunday, and to this day, 40 years later, he still has a group that comes over to his place on Sundays and meditates. He then felt a calling to build, and he started a construction company to build houses. And as part of that process of building houses, one day he had to go to Radio Shack, and he was just enamored by the first computers that he saw at Radio Shack back in the 70s. And he decides that he's going to buy one and learn how to program, because that's what he felt like he was being called to do. And he kept getting presented with opportunities to write custom software. Long story short, he gets into writing custom software for some medical practices to handle all their insurance claims. That software package gets noticed by some people in the industry. It blows up around him and ultimately becomes $1 billion company over the course of a couple decades with him at the helm and letting the source guide him every day through meditations as to what is the next best step for him to take. So it's a great real life world example of what happens when you surrender to source, listen for guidance, and then actually follow that guidance, as opposed to letting your ego rule you and get you all wrapped around all kinds of issues on a daily basis. So I highly recommend that you pick this up either in written form or, as I like to do, on Audible, and go through it. I think you'll learn some things about what I've been talking about in terms of the 7-step process for manifesting your life. Certainly, Micheal has a lot of gratitude and is connected to Source in a big way on a daily basis. He listens to what he's being called to do and then takes action from that space of calling. And he's created incredible things. One thing I failed to mention so far in this podcast or blog is that he was asked by a friend to go to prison and meet with a friend of his in prison. So he did that. And out of that one request, he started a ministry for teaching prisoners, in some cases maximum security prisoners, how to meditate and bring divine source energy into their life and transform their experience of jail and incarceration. So another really incredible thing that he just pursued and to this day continues to do on Saturdays is to visit the inmates and minister to them through teaching them meditation. Just an incredible story. So again, highly recommend it. Hopefully you enjoy that. If you have a chance to read it, send me some of your thoughts. And I'm interested in what you pick up from Micheal's story and how it applies to everything we've been talking about. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.